It's always about a number, that's with any type of traffic.
What's going on, y'all? This is Professor Grady, aka Professor Grady, giving y'all another graduation party tutorial. Now, here in this tutorial, we're actually going to go over multiplication. You know, one of the other pillars of arithmetic. This is the foundation of mathematics. You have to know multiplication before you excel in any other area mathematically and in life in general. You know, you should know what times mean. So we're going to go into all of that and go to those terms, what it means. If you've seen this, you should have, if you're going over this, you should have seen the tutorials on addition and subtraction, as well as the addition and subtraction of negative numbers. So let's get started on multiplication. We're going to turn the lights out so you can just mainly see the screen, mainly see the board rather, and let's get going. So, you know, we know what 3 plus 2 equals if you made it this far. You know, start at 3. You know, you add 2, you count to the right. 1, 2. Okay. 3 plus 2 equals, what's that right there? 5. Alright? 3 plus 2 equals 5. 3 minus 2. What does that equal? Well, we know we minus 2, we're going to the left 2 times. 1, 2. 3 minus 2. And that brings us to 1. So 3 plus 2 equals 5. 3 minus 2, pardon me, equals 1. What is 3 times 2 equal? What is 3 divided by 2 equal? Now, if you can answer these 2 questions, you probably can skip this video, but we're going to get into division in another tutorial. But here, 3 times 2, well, and what does it mean? Well, 3 in this problem that you see, this is called the multiplicand, this is the multiplier, and what we're looking for is the product. 3 times 2 is nothing more than 3 added to itself 2 times. So 3 plus 3, which equals, well, you know, we could use the number line. 3 plus 3, 1, 2, 3, 6. So 3 plus 3 equals 6. Therefore, 3 times 2 equals 6. Hope I didn't lose you. You know, I know some of you are teachers who teach kids that are in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Some of you may be students or that are tutoring, or even parents, and you just want to know where to start and getting your kids to understand. Well, it's a great starting point. I think it's a great idea to use number lines. As you see, we use number lines in a lot of our different tutorials because this helps you understand mathematics as a whole. Even when you're doing arithmetic, this can lead you to algebra and calculus. So just follow with me back to multiplication. The multiplicand, the multiplier, and we're looking for the product, which we know ends up being 6. 3 times 2 equals 6. Maybe you still don't understand what multiplication is. Well, 3 times 2 equals 6. 3 times 3 equals essentially 3 plus 3 plus 3. Remember, this is the number, this is the multiplicand, this is the multiplier, showing you how many times you're adding the multiplicand to itself. 3 plus 3 plus 3 gives us, well, we know 3 plus 3 gives us 6. We add another 3. 1, 2, 3. That brings us to 9. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9. Therefore, 3 times 3 equals 9. Are you getting the picture? 3 times 4. You can take 3 times. 3 times 4 is 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. We're taking 3 and we're adding it to itself 4 times. And you know, we get 9. If you were to add another 3, you would basically count up to 12. You know, you go 9, 10, 11, 12. By adding 3, so adding another 3. So you have 12. So 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5. Is 3 added to itself 5 times, which we know ends up being 15, and so on and so forth. 3 times 1, you just add, it's just 3. Anything times 1 is 3 because you're really not, you're just putting it there one time. You see how for the 3 times 2, we put it there twice? Well, 3 times 1 is just 3. You're just putting it there once and not adding anything to it. And also, 3 times 0 equals 0. Any number times 0 ends up equaling 0. So it's always good to remember. So, and in case I confused anyone, I'm going to run it again and show y'all the patterns. So, 3 times 5 equals 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which equals, we know, 15. 3 times 4 equals 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which is 12. 3 times 3 equals 3 plus 3 plus 3, which is 9. 3 times 2 equals 3 plus 3, which equals 6. 3 times 1 equals, we just have it as 3, which, we know equals 3. You only add it one time. And 3 times 0 means you don't even put a 3 up there to be added. You don't put anything up there. It's times 0. 0. Any number times 0 is going to equal 0. So that is a rule of multiplication that you need to know. Now, what about negative numbers? Well, it's the same concept. And before I get into that, y'all should know that multiplication, like addition, is a commutative property. That means that you can actually switch the numbers around and you will still get the same answer. What do you mean when you say that? That means, you see how these numbers are here? Well, 0 times 3 also equals 0. 1 times 3 also equals 3. 2 times 3. You got 3 times 2 over here. 2 times 3 is equal to 2 plus 2 plus 2, which equals 2. Then plus another 2, 1, 2. That brings us to 4. Then plus another 2, 6. That brings us to 6. Oh. Look at that. We're just flipping the numbers around, but we're still getting the same answers. 3 times 3, well, if you flip that around, that's going to be the same, so we don't need to write that. 3 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 3, which equals 4 plus 4 plus 4. 4 plus 4 equals 8. So have 4, then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. That brings us to 8. Then 9, 10, 11, 12. So 4 times 3 equals 12, which we see is the same thing up here as 3 times 4. And then, last but not least, 5 times 3 also equals 15, because it's 5 plus 5 plus 5. 5 plus 5, we start 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then add another 5, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this is called a commutative property. Multiplication is commutative. Alright? And it's good to remember because you'll want to know this in order to make equations more understandable for you, or make different problems more understandable for you. Because if I say that we're dealing with negative numbers, now you won't get lost. You'll see how the problems, the answers will be the same. I want to know now, what is 3 times negative 2? What is 3 times negative 2? Well, we might have, it's good to put parentheses when you have an operator like the times symbol here, right next to a negative symbol to represent a negative number. Let you know that negative is a part of this number. So 3 times negative 2, right? Well, we know that this is 3, this is the multiplicator and this is the multiplier. So this shows you how many times is being multiplied, but that negative kind of is confusing. Well, you need to know that you can always take this and rewrite it as negative 2 times 3. And now we want to know what that equals. Alright, well that's a little easier to handle. Negative 2 times 3, you could or could not, or don't have to put the negative there. I mean the parentheses there, pardon me. The negative is important. Negative 2 times 3, well we know that's negative 2 added 3 times. Added to itself. Negative 2 plus negative 2 plus negative 2. Which equals what? Negative 2. We start here. And then we're adding negative 2. So we keep going in this direction because if you know from the last tutorial, anytime you're adding a negative, you're just subtracting that number. So this ends up becoming negative 2 minus 2 minus 2. So negative, we start at negative 2 and then we minus 2. So we go here, 1, 2. And then we go another 2, 1, 2. And where does that bring us? To negative 6. So negative 2 minus 2 minus 2 equals negative 6. And therefore, that's how we get the answer to our problem. 3 times negative 2 is the same thing as negative 2 times 3, which is negative 6. Alright? Always the reason why anytime you have a negative number being multiplied against a positive number, you can move that negative to whichever number you want to. So you can also say, oh, this is negative 3 times 2. 3 times negative 2 is the same thing as negative 3 times 2. Which gives you what? Negative 3 times 2 is negative 3 added to itself 2 times. Which is negative 3 minus 3, which equals, let's find out. Well, we start at negative 3, then we minus 3 again. So 1, 2, 3. And that's negative 3. So that brings us to negative 6. So it's the same thing. See how this is the same? Alright, and you know, don't feel bad or if this might have lost you. Run the video back again and I'm sure you'll be able to understand it. It is worth knowing, definitely. Real world examples include, you know, sometimes like that, or sometimes in knowing how much something needs to be modified or changed numerically. Another rule of thumb, and this will be the last rule to remember, what if you have something like, when you're multiplying negative numbers against each other, you got, let's pick different numbers. We'll say negative 4 times negative 5. What does that equal? Now, switching this around, of course we could do that, but that doesn't make the problem any simpler because we still have 2 negative numbers. You need to know that anytime two negative numbers are multiplied against each other, this is the same thing as the positive versions of those numbers being multiplied against each other. All right? You can think of it as instead of saying -5. If you know if this was 5 times -4, it'd be -4. Well, if you know this was -4 times -5, it'd be -4. Pardon me. You know if this was -4 times 5, this would be -4 plus -4 plus -4 plus -4 plus -4. And for this, don't ask me how I know, but that'll be -20, right? You can keep adding to it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and keep that, and you'll get to -20. When you say -4 times -5, well, you can actually think of it as minus -4 minus -4 minus -4 minus -4 minus -4. And this will give you +20. That is because, again, when you are subtracting, and this was noted from the last video, but when you are subtracting a negative number, that is the same thing as adding that positive number. Alright, so this is nothing but 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, which equals +20. So that brings us to our other rule. Anytime you have a negative number multiplied by a negative number, you multiply those numbers regularly, and then you get a positive number. So -4 times -5 is nothing but 4 times 5. Alright? So those are the rules that you should remember about negative numbers. Anytime you have, and that is when you are multiplying numbers, 3 times 4, that is equal to 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. You are adding 3 4 times to get your answer, and in this case it's 12. Any number times 0 equals 0. Any number times 1 equals itself. And if you multiply by a negative number, let me say that math is the multiplication is commutative. So that means that 3 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 3, which in this case, like I said, was 12. And also that anytime you multiply by a negative number, you'll end up with a negative for that number. So in this case, you can invert it and have it -4 times 3, which equals -12. And then last but not least, the multiplication of negative numbers just gives you the positive version, the positive product of those numbers, of those positive numbers. So -3 times -4 equals 3 times 4, which equals 12. So I know this was a lot. This tutorial in particular was filled with a lot of gems, but if you can understand these points of multiplication for single digits, then you're well on your way to understanding arithmetic completely. Now, we're going to get into the multiplication of double and triple digit and multiple digit numbers, but for now, dealing with just single digit numbers is what's most important, what's most crucial, so that we can understand the basics of multiplication. So So again, Professor Grady, signing out. And if you got any questions, definitely leave some in the comments. Peace.